Hello, welcome back. And yes, I'm late. I'm very, very late. I do apologise. It's winter here. I'm struggling to get things sorted out in a timely manner. And this was one of those days, unfortunately. I'm going to put up a poll so that you feel free to respond to that. We'll be doing or covering a dinosaur race. So we're going to build a dinosaur race for those of you who want to run a dinosaur race for your game. And we'll be using the skill challenge. I will, of course, be doing a presentation on skill challenges. This is the skill challenge information I normally put out. How's it going, Fred Hubber? And how's it going, Prepare, Cook and Survive? Okay, so grab some foods and drink, make sure you're comfortable, and then we'll get started and get into this. And what you see before you is Dungeons and Dragons 4E. Well, this is where the skill challenge really originated, but we're taking it a little bit further today. Anyway, hopefully I can get through this without choking and coughing the whole time. Anyway, let's do this. Let's make it happen. Oh, God. Hi, welcome to How to RPG. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about role-playing games. This is Game Master Preparation Lesson 7, Creating Skill Challenges. Now, for those of you who want advice on how to do this, there is lots of advice out there. This is very different to what you might have seen from a different channel or a different internet site. What I do with skill challenges is definitely taking it another step further. So the overview and purpose, what are we doing? Well, why use a skill challenge in the first place? How to create a skill challenge, that's what we're going to cover. The player's actions in your skill challenge, what they look like. The skill challenge consequences, because we need to have consequences. And then, of course, I always want to cover some miscellaneous recommendations. Now, the objectives for today are to explain how to create a skill challenge for your role-playing game. Doesn't matter what it is, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, whatever. Then demonstrate how to actually build a skill challenge. So I'm going to build a skill challenge today. We're going to do a race, not a horse race, but a dinosaur race, because I thought it was kind of fun. I'm going to allow you to practice this process by actually helping provide ideas and suggestions, and that will help fill out the whole process. So you're going to be a part of this. So if you are here, part of the live stream, get ready. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. Anyway, why use a skill challenge? Let's just start with that. A skill challenge tells part of an adventure story in a cinematic manner, and it's much broader than just combat mechanics. It's more than just casting a single spell or making a single dice roll. So they work really well for that aspect. So skill challenges are good if you're using an action scene or a large-scale battle or traps. If skill challenges don't involve any scenes or events to overcome, okay, you need to have something like that. It is best to adjust your skill challenge if you don't have enough scenes or events to actually deal with. Sometimes it's just fine to resolve a problem with a single action or a single dice roll mechanic, but it's not really a skill challenge at that point. Skill challenges don't work well for something like a combat encounter. They're not very good with puzzles or social interactions, although they have been used like that in 4E, and various people have probably swear by them, but I recommend not using them for social interactions. Just role-playing and talking and a dialogue is probably better. And research activities or exercises do not make good skill challenges. Good skill challenges work when everybody is involved, where there is something that everybody has to do, so that everybody is part of that. Okay, now that we've done that, let's have a look at how do you actually create a skill challenge? What's it look like? Well, design skill challenges with a series of narrative events or obstacles for the player characters to overcome. Obstacles, obstructions, something that is going to create a problem that requires a solution. Define a very clear goal for the whole skill challenge. But also you need to have a clear goal for each stage with a consequence of success or failure at each stage of that skill challenge. So you need to break it up into pieces. Involve everybody in the skill challenge. Now, whether you use a group dice roll test, that's fine. Otherwise, if you have just one person, one player character with a high attribute or ability or skill bonus, they will dominate the entire thing. So you have to make sure that whatever happens, everybody has to take part. Now, whether that's rolling dice or doing something else, it doesn't matter, but everybody is involved. Don't have a long skill challenge. Between 3 and 4 group dice roll tests is recommended, or at least 3 or 4 events or obstacles to deal with. And that would be, I would say, your maximum, about 4. Arrange different consequences for failing at a step. At any given step or event in your skill challenge, make sure there is some consequences for failure. But as I said, also overall for the skill challenge, you need to have something that is a consequence for failure. So what can failure look like? Well, it could be the loss of, say, fate points, losing hero points if you have them, action points. Maybe you even lose inspiration if you're using that. Losing health points or hit points, morale, hit dice if you're using hit dice, spells, spell slots, gaining a condition, winding up with exhaustion, or some sort of story-related consequence can be very good as well. There's lots of different options. Events or obstacles that will end a skill challenge should be placed at the end of the skill challenge. And if you have more than one event that will end the skill challenge completely, remove them and only select one. Anytime you have an event or obstacle that will shut the entire thing down, you must place it at the end, and you only want to have one of those. Otherwise, it just won't work, mechanically and even narratively. What about your player actions in the skill challenge? What sort of things can your players do? So explain to the players that they need to state the action for their character that they're going to make. Not just pick an attribute, an ability, or a skill dice roll test to make. Because it's not about rolling dice. Even though you might have been watching stuff on YouTube or seeing stuff on the internet and it says it's about making dice rolls. Well, it's actually not. It is just the default. Try to use different attributes, abilities, and skills in a skill challenge. Okay? If you can have a wide variety, that's great. It doesn't always work though. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to do this. But you don't have to avoid using the same attribute or ability in a sequence, particularly if it would make sense to use them narratively. It's wise to allow secondary ability, attribute, or skill dice roll tests to gain advantage, disadvantage, give somebody a benefit, apply penalties, maybe that's +1, +2, -1, -2, to the main group dice roll test, and also potentially to individual checks as well. Because if you can include a wider range of ability, attribute, and skill checks and knowledge into the game, it will just make it far more interesting. We're going to try to draw on everything that the player characters have at their disposal. Skill challenges don't have to include an attribute, ability, or a skill dice roll test necessarily. Even though this is the design default for Dungeons & Dragons 4e, and obviously it's been carried over to Dungeons & Dragons 5e. You can also use a saving throw dice mechanic, or an attack roll. Or, would you believe it, you don't even have to make any dice rolls at all. You could just use something that isn't a dice roll. So what would they be? And these are the ones I want you to really focus on, because these are the really important things. Not so much rolling the dice. Something like a class or race feature. Using spells, using magic items that have some sort of effect. Clever ideas, in particular, should be very important to the process of a skill challenge. And the smart use of mundane equipment and items can result in potentially automatic success, or potentially replace a dice roll test or assist in some way, for either an individual or for the group test or check. Be wary of players trying to use or get success for the whole group by using a single high attribute, ability, or skill bonus for their character. It's certainly the sort of thing that power gamers will do, but it's not just power gamers. It is the normal default for players to fall back on, is okay, I'm going to do this. Now there is a problem with allowing that to happen. It winds up being a really an event that only one person takes place when it really should be for the group. And this is another aspect too. If you can't involve the entire group in your skill challenge, then don't bother making one. Okay, just leave it alone. Okay, we've covered that. We know what the players are going to do. But we also need to cover skill challenge consequences. What's going to happen when they fail? Because they probably will. But also, what is going to happen when they succeed? We need consequences. Don't be married to the skill challenge being failed overall with a set number of failed dice roll tests, even if that is the usual method that you're used to hearing about. You need to avoid breaking the narrative of your action scene or your action scenes overall. The narrative is more important than dice rolling mechanics or any kind of game mechanics you might have put in place. If a player chooses not to take part in the skill challenge, because it should be requiring the entire group, count that as an automatic failure for their individual check and for contributing to the group check. If you don't take part, you fail. It's as simple as that. Now, I know players will do this because they're scared that their numbers aren't very good, and all they can think of, because they're not very clever possibly, and they can't think of anything that might be applied here, and they just think, okay, well, if I have to roll a dice roll test, I've only got a 1 to add to my 20-sided dice roll, I don't want to be involved because I'm not very good at it, or I've got a minus. No, they have to be involved. Set a target number or difficulty class or DC that makes sense for the character's actions, not their character level. That is not the dial we're using for difficulty. So target numbers, difficulty class, just make it a number that makes sense for your game system. To ensure that each stage of the skill challenge is fair and balanced, divide the character with the least maximum hit points or health points by the number of scenes that inflict injuries. And this is how much health or hit points each stage should reduce their hit points by, on average, not the maximum, but the average. Now, if you think that's a little bit too complicated, there's another way of doing this, and I'm going to explain that just in a second. Adjust the sequence of failure to reflect the party and the character level by using sort of this system of averages. Now, you can use the Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master Guide for 5e. It has trap damage severity by level. There's a table. You could use that. I think it's on page 121. You'll find that Pathfinder has a system like this. A lot of game systems do. But if you don't have a system like that, there's another way of calculating how difficult you have made your skill challenge and whether you need to tone it down. You know your skill challenge is too hard if the character with the least number of maximum hit points or health points would die if they failed every stage of the skill challenge if you are using average damage. If you find that to be the case, you have made your skill challenge too hard. We are trying to tax their resources. We're trying to make the scene and the adventure interesting. We're not necessarily trying to kill their character. Although that can certainly happen. It's not impossible at all. Now, I like to do some miscellaneous recommendations when I present this, and I do have some miscellaneous recommendations for you. Don't break the narrative of the scenes that you present in your skill challenge. It is very important that you stay with the narrative, no matter what. Don't let players come up with a contrived rationale that makes no sense for why they should be able to apply an ability, an attribute, or a skill check of some kind. If it's contrived, if it makes no sense, do not allow it. If the skill challenge becomes a series of attribute, ability, and skill dice roll tests, then it's most likely going to be an extremely poor experience for you as a game master and a very poor experience for players as well. As soon as you see this happening, you probably know there's something wrong. And maybe that requires you to present your skill challenge a different way, or maybe it requires you to retrain your players so they are thinking outside of simply rolling dice. Avoid focusing on the mathematics of the game because that creates a lot more work for a game master, and it makes it much harder for players to actually succeed with smart ideas. If they are completely dependent on the random dice roll, then really it doesn't matter what their choices are, even though it might potentially increase their chance of success. All you're doing is now relying on how many dice rolls will succeed or not. And I think you'll find that ultimately, when it comes to a skill challenge, as soon as you can start getting into resolve scenes and the situation without rolling dice, you have probably succeeded in making the entire experience a lot more interesting for everybody. And I know that sounds strange because that's not normally what you are told by a lot of people about the skill challenge. I can assure you it will work much better when they start looking at other alternatives outside of picking up a 20-sided dice. In any case, I hope this was useful to you, and if it was, fantastic. I want to thank my patrons who support me so I can keep presenting this program every single two months. Every 2 months I run this particular program. And we make a skill challenge as part of that program. I want to thank you for watching. Hopefully you found it useful. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, let's just see how the chat's doing, and then we'll get started into what we need to cover. I'll answer questions first if we need to, and then we're going to make a dinosaur race. I was looking at the Tomb of Annihilation and how somebody had run a dinosaur race, and it wound up becoming just a series of dice rolls that were cumulative, and I think that's probably the most boring thing I've seen. There's definitely a better way of doing it. And thank you, Prepare, Cook and Survive. Yes, my birthday was at the beginning of the month, but I've only just been able to celebrate it just recently in the last couple of days. Okay, have you had dinosaurs in your role-playing game? I can see a lot of people have said yes. No, there's been a few people who said no out of the votes, but that's not why you're here. You're here for me to actually build a skill challenge. So what happens is the notes for this program go up onto Patreon so you can download them. I believe they're a Dungeon Master handout, and it's usually, if you type in skill challenge, you'll find the document will come up if you want that. Okay, on Patreon. I think $1 a month will get you access to that. But every single skill challenge that we've made, I've put up onto Patreon. So far we have done, what have we done so far? We have done the Indiana Jones, not Temple of Doom, but the Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark, the boulder scene, where he has to get the golden idol and then get through the trap room with the flying darts and the pit trap, and then the spiked wall with the light beam and the rolling boulder. We've done a skill challenge just like that. The next one, what else did we do? We did a collapsing building. We've done a urban chase. We've done a sailing ship in a storm. Did I say earthquake? I think we've done an earthquake. What else have we done? There's a few different things that we've covered. Things that I thought that people would wind up using. Oh, we did. I said the urban chase. Yeah. So there's a few. There's probably about 7 different skill challenges up there that are relatively fairly generic. You can transport them over to do different things for you. Oh, the river rapids. So you've got to take a raft down some river rapids. You've got something for that. Be careful of that waterfall. In any case, let's get a cracking into this. I'm going to grab my phone, which is over there. Hopefully it's fully charged now. I'm going to need a lozenge because I am a little bit gummed up today. But I'm also going to ask you a question before I get started, and that is, what sort of event should happen during a dinosaur race? I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a dinosaur race, a horse race, a camel race, or whatever it is, but what sort of things do we want? Okay? What sorts of things could happen in a dinosaur race? Okay. Now, okay, I got an E in there accidentally. Not going to worry about it. Low-level adventure. The party is hired to kill a dragon. Turns out to be just a large dinosaur. Yeah, I suppose it could be. We're not gonna go into the killing of dinosaurs and dragons today. It's a race, okay? So I guess the first thing to understand with something like this is we need to have things that narratively are going to happen, okay? And we don't want to turn it into a great, huge sort of destruction derby. It's still got to be a race. So we've got to be careful about how we present it. Otherwise, it's not going to be very interesting. Anyway, let me just pull up the various things that we need. So this is not required right now, but this is what I sort of... I've got a template sort of started. And this usually, I always find that when I try to do these, they require me to work very, very fast to get them done on time. So I'll do my best to make that happen. Okay, so now you'll see right now I have cannibalized the urban chase or city chase skill challenge that we made a little while ago. Let's grab my phone. And I'll get my phone going so I can see what's going on. Now, for a lot of you who are wondering, what's the deal, Fred, with presentation? What you'll find is a lot of the information exists in the Dungeons and Dragons 4e Dungeon Master Guide. There's 1 and 2. Dungeon Master Guide 1, Dungeon Master Guide 2. The information is different. It's not exactly the same. But the other big aspect to this is that the designers released a whole lot of information over the internet via Twitter, explaining that you have to sort of, you can't stick to what you just they gave you. Like, there are certain things you have to do to make it work well, and that's why you get my presentation, because it takes in consideration the first book, the second book, and the stuff you can't find on the internet, because it was never published in writing. Okay, what's this? Tries to buck the rider off and eat them. Yes, you could do something like that. Dino bucking rider. Not bad, Fred. That's pretty good. That could certainly be something. Hi, Derp. Derp is a patron. Thank you for being here. What do you got here? A tar pit. A tar pit trap. Now, you don't normally put a tar pit trap in the middle of a race course. Remember, it's a race course. So, tar pit trap. But I suppose it's your game, so you could do that. Areas that either bestow haste or slow effects. Yes, you could. Yeah, I suppose you could do something like that. Tries to buck the rider off. I got that one. Herd crossing. A herd of other dinosaurs could cross the path of the race, creating a moving obstacle course. Herd crossing. Okay, we've got herd crossing. Okay, so next, local flora, carnivorous plants or poisonous flora could pose a threat alongside the race course. A volcano erupts. A volcano erupts is a good idea, but the problem with a volcano erupting is volcanoes are hard to survive. Volcano erupts, and everybody dies. End of skill challenge. So quicksand, mud, pits, again, natural hazards, I suppose. Okay, you're trying to put natural hazards. A stampede, 8, stampede. Now, a stampede is its own skill challenge. There'll be a day where we'll make a skill challenge and it'll be a stampede. For those of you who are wondering, when's that happening? I tell you, it will happen eventually. I've used it before. It should be its own thing rather than tied into this, I think. So Derp, you have now reminded me that I need to make sure I do a stampede skill challenge in the future. Lost equipment, the saddle reins, equipment. Oh, yes, yeah, equipment coming loose. Saddle coming loose. So right now, I think it's pretty clear that a lot of you can rock slide. Yep, depending on the environment, rock, slide. Okay, so I want you to start thinking in terms of a race car race, like the sorts of things that tend to happen in a race car race. So the first thing we're going to have is going to be placed at the end. We're going to have a crash. We want our race to have a crash. Cars have crashes. Horses usually don't have crashes, but when they do, it's kind of spectacular. But we want to have a dinosaur crash. We want some dinosaurs to crash into each other, and you have to avoid the crash. So, does that sound reasonably exciting and interesting? Teleport tiles. Okay, all right. I'm writing down your ideas. If I see anything that sort of stands out, we'll go with that. But I think we should definitely have a dinosaur crash. And the dinosaur crash needs to be near the end. It's got to be the last stage, the scenario 3. Okay? Slipping on dino poo. Yes, I suppose dino poo would be one. Now there's another one. And that is when you're watching a race car or racing, depending on the type of racing it is, there's a bit of nudging going on. There's a bit of rubbing. There's a bit of knocking people into walls and obstacles occasionally, even when they're not supposed to be doing that. And since this is probably not a very well policed race, we're going to have some rubbing and some bumping into each other. So I think that's one of those things that you definitely want to have there. It's probably going to be one of the first things we deal with. It'll be like this first stage. Having another dinosaur or animal of some kind that you're riding being bumping into you, so it can put you into an obstacle. If you think about the Fast and the Furious, you think about car races, these are the sorts of things you wind up seeing, right? So let's tie something like that in. Can we use anything else with regard to that? The saddle coming loose, we might actually be able to use as a... yes, dinosaurs want to eat spectators. That would be fun. And maybe that's a consequence. Let's go here. Dino eat spectator, or trample them to death. That might happen. Yes, riders dropping caltrops may cause a crash. Yes. So that's certainly, let's take the crash idea and caltrops. I think we can tie that in quite nicely. Thank you for that. Well done. Nice job. Now, there's another one. There was a video game called Road Rash, where you were on a motorbike, and you'd try to. It was a race. You had to try to beat the other people. But during the race, if you got beside them, you could nudge into them, but that wasn't a good idea, because sometimes you would crash as well, because it's a motorbike. Now, dinosaurs probably don't have quite so much the same sort of problem going on here, because they've got so much bulk, and they're probably a lot more balanced. Whereas like a motorbike's only got 2 wheels, not 4 wheels. It's not like a race car. But Road Rash would allow you to attack each other. So we're going to have a scene where you are attacking somebody or somebody attacks you, the riders, on your dinosaur. They probably shouldn't be doing that, but they're going to. They're going to get close enough that they can get their riding stick or something and belt you with it. And so there's going to be a bit of a fight. Now, we're not turning it into a full-blown combat, but we are at least having a scene where there is a blow that's going to be struck. Opponents, you guys have got lots of good ideas here. So those are the 3 things that I had selected. I was thinking something reasonably that makes sense in terms of a race, things that you would probably see, things that people will probably want to do. You can be guaranteed that the players at some point are going to say, I want to attack the other riders. It is very important that when you build this, that every player who's got a character has to be part of the race. If they're not all part of the race, whether they're riding the same dinosaur or their own dinosaur, it doesn't matter. If they're not all part of the race, don't even bother doing this. You're wasting your time. Okay, so let's type in some stuff here to get us started. I think what I'll do is I'll just do the overview. Dinosaur race. Here we go. Description. Okay, the group of characters are none of that. Okay, the group of characters are invited to a dinosaur race. That's our first thing. This race can take place in a city. Using a lasso to deride a dino and put it in. Yes, yeah, at least the rider would come off. It's a good idea. So we're going to deal with a lot of the stuff. I know you want to start throwing in ideas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a task. We want to build out our 3 scenes. That is, there's going to be an attack that takes place on a dinosaur. There's going to be, our first one is somebody is going to try to drive their dinosaur into you to push you into an obstacle so that you wind up taken out. Okay, or at least slowed down. So I want you to think about those things and the sorts of things you might want to try to do to avoid that happening to you, right? Those are the last one, the crash, we'll deal later. We'll deal with that later. Compelled to race, the bad things happen. Yes. This race takes place in a city, the wilderness, or on a specialized track. It's really up to you. Every player must be involved. Let's put that as a note. Special note. Special note. Okay. Now, special note needs a little bit more to it, so we'll do that. Dino rampages and destroys a building or monster. Or what? Monument. Well, you could. Yes. Okay. Let's remember we've got our scenes sorted out. We've got some stuff to work with. We're going to be dealing with resolving those things in a second. Let's just get with this. So the first thing is every player must be involved. The players riding a dinosaur can ride the same animal or a different dinosaur. It really doesn't matter. In any case, they will still have to be part of the scene. They will still have to do stuff. Just because you're riding with somebody else does not mean you get to sit back and do nothing. You're not going for a ride. You're going to be working. Okay. So that's our description. The group are invited to a dinosaur race. There should be a large number of dinosaur riders in the race. Okay, hang on. There are a. There are a large number of dinosaur races, riders, and different types of dinosaurs in the race. So we want to make it nice and varied, so we get lots and lots of potential problems. How's it going, Overboard? Overboard is a patron and a moderator. Thank you for being here. He's got a YouTube channel as well, by the way. He does miniatures and terrain, stuff like that, reviews. And Cholt, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad. Haha. So we've got this part. We've got our first bit down. We need to do our first scene, which is not the sprint. So what we'll do is we'll use let's do our first scene. We don't want to first off attack. What we want to do is a dinosaur ram. Not ram, barge. Dinosaur barging. We're going to deal with dinosaur barging. That's our first scene. Our second scene, another dinosaur rider tries to knock the player character off the tries to knock off their dinosaur. So that's our attack, really. And knock. Let's do knock. One dino is in heat, which throws off some of the audience interference. Well, we could, but again, you know, these take a long time to build, so I'm only taking 3 things. So even though we've got all these ideas, you guys can build your own stuff on top of this. Like, you just take a section. The reason I've selected the Dino Crash, trying to barge another dinosaur, is they are mechanically, they should give you all the 3 different things that you require to do anything. That's why I've selected them. And they're fairly generic and sort of the sorts of things you might have take place in a race in the first place. Dinosaur rider attack. Let's do that. That's what we're dealing with there. We'll come back to this in a second. We've got a bit of... I just want to get the first bits in, and then we'll start dealing with the other stuff. Yeah, duck out of the way, so barging dinosaur into the obstacle off the cliff. Yes, if there's a cliff involved. Okay, dinosaur barging. Dinosaur rider attacked. And then our last one is we're going to have a full-blown dinosaur crash. Just to finish it all off, we need to have a dinosaur crash. It's got to finally happen. Okay. Let me just do this. Okay, so one of the other dinosaur riders throws caltrops onto the track and causes a few dinosaurs to crash into each other. Okay, so we've got that one. And what else do we have to put in here? This leaves a large pile of dinosaurs in the middle of the track to avoid. Alright, so that's our end scene. So we know what we're dealing with there. Counter PT maneuver. So we know what our description is for that one. Cool. Let's go to the second one, which should be here. This is the dinosaur rider attack. Another dinosaur rider tries to knock the player character off their dinosaur by attacking them with a riding stick. I don't know what do you call the thing that you use for I guess, would you say whipping the horse or the animal so it goes faster? Okay, I'm assuming it's I suppose you could call it a whip. Now climbs none of this is going to apply. We're taking all of this out. We need to make sure we get that scene set down. The weapons used by another rider can vary. Okay, so what are we doing here? Vary depending on what they have hidden. Okay, all right, so but a riding stick would be something that they could use, and it would not look out of place. You know, if you're wandering around running, you know, in a race and you've got a sword and you're swinging a sword, that's way too obvious. But a riding stick might accidentally, if you're really close, whack you rather than the animal. You never know. So that's what we're trying to do here, is try to knock the player character off their rhino by attacking them with a riding stick or something else. It's up to you. Okay, next, that's scene 2. Let's do scene 1. Okay, dinosaur barge. And let's get this. Another dinosaur is deliberately driven into the side of the character's animal. It's a riding crop. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that might be helpful. With a riding crop. Bracket, I'll put stick. For those people who have no idea what that is, we've got riding crop. Okay, sweet. Next, the character's dinosaur is forced toward an obstacle that they will crash into. Okay. So, oh no, hang on. This is the wrong place. I'm in this. Let's take that, cut that out, put that where it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be here. Sorry, people. Paste. The characters. Dinosaur is forced toward an obstacle that they will crash into. Obstacles. Obstacles can be. All right, so what are some obstacles that we could use? Some obstacles that you could use. Let's go here. Okay. Tree. A spectator stand. A rock. Heavy metal opposing the Dino Riders' equipment to drive their Dino berserk. Heated metal. This is for the attack side of things. I see. Yeah, I suppose you could do that. Next. What's another good obstacle that we can use for this? Tree across the route. It doesn't have to be a tree across the road. It just needs to be on the side. We don't have to have a fallen tree. Remember, we're using another dinosaur to barge into their dinosaur, which is probably likely to happen, right? Okay, yes, okay, all right. So we've got tree down, a hedge, a vampire hedge. What do you mean a vampire hedge? Yeah. A hedge. That would be fun. A small creek. Somebody had said a cliff. Sounds like a bad idea. Cliffs mean you fall off cliff and may die. But, or what other thing can we have here that is an obstacle that you would probably have on a track? So we've got a spectator stand, we've got a tree, we've got a rock. It'll be on the side. Hay bales. Let's put some hay bales in there. Hay bale. Hay bales. There we go. So we've got our first scene. Right, now we need to actually, let's start off with the dinosaur barge. So individual things, I want you to think about this, and you're going to throw these ideas out here, and I'm going to plug them in here and turn it into something, okay? So hashtag. How does the player character deal with another dinosaur barging into their animal? Okay, so you're going to throw out a few ideas. Stake down bait, try and throw off the dinosaur. You do not have time to stake down bait. It is in the middle of a race. You're not going to be staking down bait. Okay, so a real obvious thing that we can use is an animal handling check or something like that, you know? Staking down bait. I was not expecting somebody to say that. It's like, which world are we on? Okay, individual things. A character, riding the dinosaur can can try to control the animal, control the mount with an animal handling check. And we're going to be doing, I think it's wisdom, isn't it? Wisdom's good enough. We want to make the DC high, low, a spiked, staking down bait, try and throw it off the dinosaur. As an alternative solution though, let's go here. Throw food. The rider can throw food across the other side of the track so the rival dinosaur moves away. Now we can do that. That works fine. So Pale Rider, we'll take your idea and we'll just modify it a little bit. So you get a bit of food out of your pack and you toss it so that the dinosaur stops trying to barge into you, particularly if it's hungry, and it might snap it out of the air for all you know. Spiked barred poisoned. Spiked barred poisoning. I'm lost. Trip the barger with Dino's tail. Okay, all right. Now, how do you do that? Your dinosaurs, how's the dinosaur going to do that when the tail's in the back and it's running in a race? You're going to have to explain that a little bit more to me. I like the idea, I just don't know how that's going to work. Okay. Tripping the other dinosaur is a good idea. It's just like, how do you go about doing that in a reasonable manner? I meant the people put in the race would put out some of the distractions like stake down baits. I meant the people putting on the race would put out some of the distraction like, yeah, but it's not going to work because it's something that your player on the dinosaur has to do. It's not somebody else doing something. We were focusing on the player characters. Their actions have an impact on the race, not some NPC. We're not trying to do that. Okay, so yeah, it's probably not going to work. So let's do this. Okay, so a character with a weapon or spell that has a range of 30 feet. No. A character with a weapon or spell. So now you could try to attack the other animal. That maybe that'll do it. It's like that'll get them off you. Okay, a character with a weapon or spell can try to attack the barging dinosaur with a successful strike. Okay. Now we could be using a weapon, a character with a weapon, riding crop. Let's do that. With a riding crop, weapon or spell could try to attack the barging dinosaur with a successful strike. So that's good. So there's no, we don't even have to put down an armor class because your dinosaurs will be whatever armor class or whatever defense system you're using. So it's just one successful strike and you're going to be good. We can also use the animal handling or wisdom check as a DC 20. Okay. Quivering palm the offending dinosaur. Well, I suppose. Okay. So you're going to go with an unarmed strike. Riding crop, unarmed strike. Here we go. weapon or spell can try to attack the barging dinosaur with a successful strike to force them away. Okay, that's fine. We got that, so that's good. So we've got a couple of different things. I'm sure one of these is going to come up. I'm sure players are going to think of that. But we're not necessarily attacking the rider. We're just attacking the dinosaur itself. But you don't. I mean, here's the problem. Maybe you decide that if people see you doing that sort of thing, then there's going to be a complication. There might well be. Anyway, now the character riding the dinosaur can try to control a mount with an animal handling DC 10. Okay, right. So that's then we need to put a bit more in here, don't we? A character riding the dinosaur can try to control the mount with an animal handling check to push the dinosaur, come on Fred, dinosaur, across the track. Okay, we've got it. Throw salt in the dinosaur's eyes. Okay, now we're talking. Now we're going to go into the alternative solutions. So we're going to get rid of this. Well, we don't need to get rid of this, but we're going to just move it down. Okay, so the rider can throw salt into the rival dinosaurs' eyes so that they can't see where they are going. And stop the barge maneuver. That doesn't look right, but we'll maneuver. Okay, cool. We've got that down. Have PC's dino bite the other dino, you know? Ah, okay. All right, so so we're probably going to be in here somewhere. So let's control, let's the character gets their dinosaur to bite the rival dinosaur so that it moves away. So it's really going to be down to dinosaur biting defense or armor class of another dinosaur. So yeah, that's it's a pretty good idea. Okay, so let's do this. Somebody has put down grease. Fred has. We've got lots of ideas here, Hubba. Someone spot one of my videos and apparently it got very morbid, mate. There are some morbid things. Not for children. Not for children. Okay. Right, so let's do the rider casts the grease spell in front of the other dinosaur so that it loses its balance and slips over. We got rid of one dinosaur. That was good. So we've got that. What other things can we do with our barging dinosaur that might be causing us some problems? Misty Steep's not really going to help us. Dimension Door's not going to help us. So flying is not going to help us. Casting the fly spell, not going to help us. Casting the fly spell on your dinosaur so it can get out of reach. Okay, we just gone from land to flying. Barding is armor for amount that above suggestion spiked. Yes, but you can't do that I mean, it would be prevention, but it's not something you can do during your race. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, let's stop. We're going to do a pit stop and we're going to stick some barding on our thing. That would be something you would do in advance. We don't need to build that into here. Because having barding, so I guess what you're saying is this would never happen if your mount had spiked barding. That's if they even allow spiked barding. Okay, so we'll put it in here. I see what you're going with this. Polymorph. Now that's a good idea. The character polymorphs the opposing dinosaur into a small slug. So it has no weight to push the rider's dinosaur around with. Yep, that's a good idea. Okay, so let's take this and I'm going to go cut that out. It will drop this down here under alternatives under scenario 2 because they might actually come into play. We'll see. Paste. Let's get rid of this one. We'll come back to that in a second, but we're not doing that right now. Let's go back and finish the other one. Now, you'd mentioned barding, so we'll deal with barding. If the character's dinosaur mount has spiked barding or armor, it doesn't get barged by another rider, another rival dinosaur. Okay, all right, so we've covered this, and we know. Okay, I'm not English, but I'm not American, so that'll do that. That's maneuver. Okay, specialized. Okay, cool. So we've got a few ideas there. It also suddenly has low move speed, but the keeps going. Well, it does, but it's more likely to get stepped on or just get left behind. There's no way it's going to be keeping up. So we've got group check stuff we've got to deal with, and fail and success and what that will look like. We'll deal with that shortly. Let's just deal with these other things here, like our scenario 2. No, actually, maybe I should not do that, because I guess what we want to do is we want to demonstrate, and I need to take a break. We need to demonstrate what are the consequences of failing this. Really important. It's easy to know what success is. It's what does failure look like if you wind up with your dinosaur getting barged and knocked into an obstacle. Hashtag. What happens if the player character fails this section? Now, I would say to you that it probably will not require, I think we can say group checks, not going to involve, but individual checks, yes, it would. You will have everybody doing an individual check. Everybody needs to. So there are no consequences for a group check. So it's not going to apply. So let's just get rid of this. This is one of those times where we're not going to be using a group check. It does happen. There are no consequences for a group check, succeed or failing. Okay, and we can probably take this a couple of times, but individually it definitely makes sense. So we'll go copy, and that'll actually just speed up that process. Consequences for the group don't apply because there is not a group thing going on here, but we do want to put this in here, paste, and nope, let's do that, and pull this across and hit this again. Good. And then we'll go down, 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 and do that. And hit this. And paste. There are times when group checks don't apply. There are. Okay? We're going to be dealing with individual success and failure now. Failing. Yeah, what happens? Hit the obstacle. Ouch. Exactly. That's exactly it. If the character succeeds in failing to keep up, it's basically you hit the obstacle. Failing to avoid the barging dinosaur and get out of the way of an obstacle results in hitting the terrain. But what else happens? So what else happens? Just because you hit the terrain doesn't mean that the race ends. It just means that you hit the obstacle. Okay? What happens is what we need to deal with. I'm going to go take a quick break, come back, and I'll keep going. Okay? I'll let people have a think about that. So are we losing hit points? Is the dinosaur losing hit points? Is the rider losing hit points? Are they both losing hit points? What are we doing? Are we what are we doing with it? What makes sense? 5 minutes or less. Damaged and slowed. Good idea. go. Alright, let's get started back into this. Get some more stuff in here and get this consequence sorted out so we can move on to the next thing. What else happens? So, failing to avoid. Sorry, did I get this switched over? Yes, I did. Good. Oh, right. So, failing to avoid the barging dinosaur and getting out of the way of the obstacle. Failing to avoid the barging dinosaur and getting out of the way of the obstacle results in hitting the terrain. What else happens? The rider and dinosaur take a setback worth of damage to hit or health points. Okay, that's our first thing. Setback worth of hit. Worth of damage to hit or health points. The dinosaur is slowed down. Dinosaur is slowed down and is trailing the pack. So we're going to put you at the back. So don't fail first stage. Setback worth. Of damage. Okay, so there's our failure. So succeed. If the character succeeds in if the character succeeds in avoiding the barging dinosaur, the rival dinosaur crashes into the track's terrain. So we're going to take out another dinosaur rider. Off a cliff, game over. Well, it would be... we're not going to go off the cliff because, as I said, if we're putting something that ends the skill challenge, it's probably a bad idea. Actually, I'm going to take that out of there because that's just going to cause problems. Forget about the cliff. Because that's, as I said, anything that ends it should not be there. It's just to give us something to work with. Right, so that's that bit. That was good enough. That's good enough. Cool. It does depend. Yes, it does. It depends on the obstacle. Crashing into a barrier, slowed it down. Running into a stone wall, stop, hurt. Well, no, if the dinosaur is pretty big, it might just take out the stone wall completely. But it'll probably hurt. Again, it's really up to you. But you got to just think narratively. Our stone wall is not that big and not that strong. Okay, all it's going to do is give a setback worth of damage to our dinosaur and our rider. They have to deal with that. We don't want to get too nasty. This is only scenario and event 1 or step 1 of the whole process. Okay, so now the other dinosaur rider is attacking you. What the heck do we do? Okay, so let's deal with that. Hashtag. What does the player character do if the other riders try to knock them off their dinosaur. Okay, so what are they potentially going to be able to do? We need to look at that individually. Okay, we need some stuff that were pretty standard that we would use, and then we're going to include some stuff that are sort of alternative solutions for this section of it. Does that make sense? Okay, so first off, another dinosaur right in the knocking player. So let's see, what can we use here that was already built? So the first one is the character can try to avoid the blow from the riding crop with a dexterity saving throw. Will make it a DC 15. Okay, so that would be a very easy thing. Say, I'm going to just try to avoid it. Done. Sweet. We're all good. Next, can we're going to get rid of this. This isn't really going to work unless somebody can think of something you would be able to do acrobatically on a dinosaur while somebody's trying to whack you with a big stick. You tell me. I don't know. You tell me. I'm not too sure. Fred Hubbard is coming up with most of the ideas, so we'll go with that. Okay, the other thing is we could try to block. We could try to use a block in here, and I will take this one here and just cut this and put it at the top. Might wind up getting rid of the other ones in a second, but we'll do this. So the rider can try to block the blow with their own riding crop with an attack roll of attack roll versus, and I guess armor class of, let's make it something interesting. Let's make it reasonably hard. Let's give it, say, an 18. 15's pretty low. Let's make it an 18. So whatever blows coming through is going to be reasonably difficult to stop. So blocking it, saving throws are a little bit easier. Attack rolls are a little bit, well, saving throws are a bit harder to pull off. Attack rolls are usually a bit easier in most game systems, even Dungeons and Dragons. So let's do that. We don't have anything nobody's come up with something we could do that was athletic or acrobatic. Alternative solutions. So there's a couple of, I'm going to put these in fairly quickly unless people come up with some ideas. And that is, how do we deal with a situation when somebody's trying to hit you with a riding crop? A character can avoid the riding crop and gain automatic success with Misty Step, Dimension Door, or Teleportation spell. Let's just say that that's probably going to come up. If somebody's got Misty Step or Dimension Door or Teleport, Dimension Door and Teleport are very high level spells, so kind of teleportation stuff. Now, flying would probably be another thing, so flying out of reach of the flying out of reach of the rival blow Grants. Let's go automatic success. Automatic success. We've just managed to burn up yet another spell. Okay. Alright. Does anybody else think of anything that you could do here? Alternative solutions, things like that. Otherwise, I'll move on. I'm going to leave that for now. Okay, so our consequences. Consequences for individuals. So what happens if we fail? What happens if we succeed? Okay. If the character succeeds in dodging or blocking, if the character succeeds in dodging or blocking the blow from the rival dinosaur rider, actually we can keep it as simple as that. Keep it as that. That's our success. That's it. That's all we need to do with that. We don't need to necessarily give them a benefit in this case. We just say, you dodged it, you blocked it. No, but failure is different. We've still got to do something interesting with failure for this one. So failing to avoid being knocked off the dinosaur results in a setback worth of bludgeoning damage. So we can go bludgeoning damage or damage, setback worth of damage, whatever the weapon's going to be. Riding crop is probably just going to be bludgeoning. Okay, of damage. And they are hanging off the back of the dinosaur. Okay, so failing to avoid being knocked off the dinosaur results in a setback worth of damage from the weapon, and they are hanging off the back of the dinosaur. The rider has disadvantage on their next 20-sided dice roll test. Okay, we're going to do that. We're going to give you disadvantage, basically. If you have to roll a 20-sided dice roll, you're going to have disadvantage. Whip the opponent off their dinosaur, trip their dinosaur, and yeah, so okay. So you now here's what you've done is basically you've said here. We had a block, but you could attack. I was waiting for somebody to say something like this. Thank you. The character can attempt to attack the attempt to counter attack the rival dinosaur rider. Okay, with a successful hit, they knock the rider off their dinosaur. So we're going to be quite a lot more brutal to the other rider. They're coming off, going down. Exactly. Trip the dinosaur with your whip. You're probably not going to be doing that. It's a big dinosaur. I don't think a whip's going to be doing shit. Okay, so the character can attempt to counterattack the rival dinosaur rider with a successful hit that knocks the rider off the dinosaur. Okay, there we go. We got it. Sweet. Very good. All right, so nobody had any suggestions for that, but we've got three different fairly standard things. We're blocking it, we're attacking the other rider, and we're avoiding them by just using a dexterity check. So we've got a couple of attack rolls and we've got a dexterity saving throw. So, which is very different to what our first one was. So, like, it looks different in that realm. We've got a few different things going on, so we can vary it up, and we've got some alternatives as well. So that is scenario 2. We've got some alternatives, but nobody else has come up with anything else, which is a shame. So for those of you who are just watching and trying to pay attention, that's cool. We'll keep pushing ahead. I've got limited time to finish the last bit. This is where things get really brutal, though. This is where everything can come to an end. Correct? So now we've done our consequence. We've not got no group consequence for this one. Now we have a scenario where there is a dinosaur crash. Somebody thrown caltrops onto the track, and a whole lot of dinosaurs have crashed into each other, leaving a huge pile of dinosaurs in the middle of the track, and you've got to avoid it. Because if you don't, mate, you're going to be part of the pile up. Like, that's going to be you, part of that pile there. You're going to lose the race, and you're going to probably get seriously injured. And yeah, that's it. That'll stop you. So you don't want to mess this bit up here. So what are some things that you can do as a character? Let's type in this and see what people have to say. Hashtag, come on, baby, let's do this. Okay. What can the player character do to avoid a dinosaur crash or pile up on the track? Don't overthink it, people. Just go with your gut. What could you do? That's all you're trying to do, is what could you do in this circumstance? Okay? This isn't going to apply at all, so perception checks won't be helping you in the slightest, so forget about that. And again, another perception check will not be helping you. Persuasion check, probably not going to help you. We're dealing with a big, huge obstacle in the pole of our track. So, all of those, not going to help. But the first thing I would say is you're probably going to try to control your animal, try to get around the pile. So we can actually pull some of the mechanics that we were using before in the first part under individual, the animal handling check. We just need to make a slight adjustment in terms of how it's structured. Okay? And we go down. Where is it? Dun, 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 dun. There we go. Individual. And we paste. So, a character riding the dinosaur can try to control the mount with an animal handle check. DC. Now, we're going to make it quite hard. Let's make it fairly difficult. Okay, let's make it a 25, because we want them to try something else to steer the dinosaur around that's not right around the dinosaur crash. Very, very simple. Okay, not too hard at all. What's another thing that you might want to try to do in terms of, you know, what can you put forward as an option in this case? Is that the only thing that we're going to use? Is there something else that we could try? Is there something that we think of that our players will suggest? Where might this go? Do you know what I mean? So, okay, so let's have a look here at alternative solutions while you're trying to come up with a way of avoiding a dinosaur crash. The character states there is a bomb. No, we're not going to be doing that. There's no bombs. That won't help you. That thaumaturgy, thunderclap won't help you. Casting, no, none of that will help you in the slightest. So those alternatives don't apply to this. So we're going to get rid of this. But there is a possibility here, and it's really going to depend on how large our dinosaur is in terms of an alternative. And I'm going to say we can use a couple of these here. These are probably things that people are going to try as alternatives. So let's just chuck these in here. A character can avoid the... Now, Misty Step won't help us. Character can try to avoid the dinosaur crash by using dimension door or teleportation spells on their own dinosaur. Someone's going to ask you for this. It's almost guaranteed. Evade, stop, outrun. Outrun it. I don't think you're going to be outrunning it. It's going to be crashing in front of you. So outrunning it's not going to be a stopping. Yes, I suppose you could control and steer around, but if you can stop, you can probably steer around. So stopping's probably not going to be... I think the steer around evade is probably the one you're going to be going for, right? Okay, so a character can try to avoid the dinosaur crash by using dimension door or teleportation spells on their own dinosaur. To pass the pile up. Okay, that's going to come on. Somebody's going to ask you to do this. Now, whether you allow dimension door or teleportation to do that thing with a dinosaur, depending on its size, kind of, it's up to you. You're a game master. You're going to have to figure that one out. Fly out of reach of the. Now here's the next thing that's going to come up, people. A character casts fly, casts the fly or levitate. I guess levitate, levitate spell to go over the crashed dinosaurs. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so character casts fly or levitate spell to go over the crashed dinosaurs, grants automatic success. And dimension door is probably going to be automatic success too. Has anybody else come up with an idea yet in terms of how you would deal with a crashed dinosaur pile up in the middle? Are we still stuck? Okay. Okay, so a character riding the dinosaur can control a amount with an animal handling wisdom check DC 25 to steer the dinosaur around the dinosaur crash. What else? Steer or jump the dinosaur. We might actually make that slightly different. To steer the dinosaur around the... Let's do that. That's probably easier. And let's do this. We're going to have a second one as another option. While people are struggling to come up with some stuff. I will put the stuff in myself, don't worry if you don't come up with it. It's all good. A character riding the dinosaur. Okay. A rider can try to control them. Can try to control amount. We're going to go DC 25. Make it harder. To jump the dinosaur over the dinosaur crash. Over the dinosaur, over the dinosaur pileup. Jumping over would be harder, so let's put that down. Alright. And we're going to leave it open. I'm waiting for people to pop on their ideas and I will put them in. If they will fit, you just got to come up with a solution, and let's get a consequence at the end of this since we're running out of time. Okay. If a character finds, I don't know, we're not doing that. If the character fails to avoid the dinosaur crash, their dinosaur plows I didn't get that right, did I? Plows into the pileup. Okay, so what do? The rider character. The character loses the race. So you won't be winning any race doing that. And the rider and dinosaur take a set back worth of damage in hit or health points. Hit points or health points. All right, collide. Okay. And we can probably do something else with this, but it's really I'm not gonna fill in everything. I'm trying to get you guys to sort of think, okay, what can we do with this? Try that, and then we just marry in what we can make work. Okay. I know it's not as easy as it looks. I know it's easy. I know you want to just watch and just see what I put in, but I want you to try and suggest a few things, because at some point I want you to be able to make your own skill challenges. And that's really why we come here, is I'm just demonstrating that process, but I want you to be able to build your own stuff. And okay, anyway, so what else have we got here? Okay, so if a character finds no, this is success. If a character riding the dinosaur, riding a dinosaur, riding. Now let's do this. Riding a dinosaur. Dinosaur avoids the crash complete the dinosaur race. Now we need to come up with a way to define who wins. We have to define who wins. So now there is a way of doing that we could have a sort of like a ticking clock or anything like that. Most of the time you'll find people use like you make a dice roll and we add that dice roll onto another dice roll, and then whoever gets the greatest number of dice, greatest value cumulatively on a dice roll is the winner of the race. But that's not really very interesting. It's not really that interesting. So let's go here. Who wins the race? Race is determined by the player character who succeeded on the most sections of the race. So really what we're doing is we're just basing it off that. I think that's right. Okay, there we go. Who succeeded. Okay. So as long as one of the player characters finishes the race, that potentially that'll mean that they'll be the winner. So there's going to be a lot of casualties in our dinosaur race. And I am going to just trim this. This is very, very basic. I can assure you that players will come up with other ideas, but the basic structure is there. Okay, with your consequences and alternatives. Let's get this out of the way. There we go. There we go. So along with all the other skill challenges that we've made, the dinosaur race will go up on Patreon near the end of the week. I think I'm going to a movie, so it might wind up not being on the Friday in New Zealand. It might be Saturday in New Zealand. It might take me a little bit longer, but most of it is done here. I'm pretty happy with its basic structure. It's not the most in-depth skill challenge, which actually, in many respects, might actually be kind of helpful, not to have it too complicated. But anyway, let's start bringing this down. So let's grab that. There we go. So I think what we will definitely wind up doing is we'll do more of these, and I guess the more we make and the more I've certainly seen people who, after watching how I build a skill challenge and how it sort of could be structured, have felt a lot more comfortable with just making their own stuff up on the fly. You can do a skill challenge on the fly as long as you have 3 or 4 scenes laid out in your head and you kind of know what they're going to look like. Then you can just leave it to the players to make a decision about what they want to try to do. It can be done. And then you make up some DC numbers or some armor class numbers, or you determine whether something would be automatic success, or whether it contributes to the overall result in terms of success. Like you can do that on the fly, but you always need to have between 3 and 4 narrative events or obstacles for your skill challenge. If you don't have those, it's really hard to do. Anyway, so tomorrow, what am I doing tomorrow? The Araped. We're going to talk about it's a monster. It's a monster most of you will never have heard of. The Araped is from Esper's Emporium of Esoterica, and I've had to build a lot of additional stuff for that. So we'll see how that goes. It's going to be an interesting one. Certainly, I've had to work quite hard to build it out a little bit. Anyway, I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who took part in the poll today. Thank you for doing so. I do appreciate it. I want to thank those of you who have been here watching and listening. And Fred Hubber, I really huge thank you for all of your feedback. It's been a bit one-sided. Thank you, Pale Rider, for putting in some of your suggestions and ideas. Overboard for being here. I do appreciate your feedback. It does help to have somebody throwing ideas out there. Thank you, Derp, for being here, also a patron. And yeah, look, all the best with your creations. As I said, make your own stuff. You've got to make your own stuff. Okay, so whether it be the morning, the afternoon, the wee night, is it dark right now? It possibly is. Wherever you are, look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.